session 15, few minutes in the book of Esther. And we're going to continue on with God will fight the battle. He fights our battle, but we have to show up. God fights the battle, but we have to show up. Chapter 5. On the third day of the fast, Esther put on her royal robes, entered to the inner court of the palace, just across from the king's hall. The king was sitting on his royal throne, facing the entrance. When he saw Queen Esther standing there in the corner court, he welcomed her, held out the gold scepter to her. So Esther approached and touched the end of the scepter. Wow. God does fight our battles, but we have to show up. And I don't want anybody to misunderstand what happens here. I don't ever want anyone to think that every time that believers and saints throughout biblical history have faced death, that it's always turned out like this, because it hasn't always turned out like this. You know, Samson, he, asked God to give him strength, and he pulls down pillars on top of himself. Others who gave their lives. When you get to the New Testament, each of the apostles, they all die horrific deaths. We have John on the island of Patmos. So I don't want anybody to think that it's always going to end up like it did here for Esther. But in this particular circumstance, she was willing to die. And so now we see in this particular experience, you got to show up for the battle. Now God's going to do his thing, but people have to show up. The Mordecais have got to say, hey, Esther, you're going to have to take a stand. The Esthers have got to say, okay, have everybody pray for me. And then even after everybody prays, you're still going to have to do what we call the practical. She's got to go now, take that prayer and that faith. Man, can you imagine what that must have been like for her, standing there? But I tell you, God gave her the power and the strength, just as he has done every saint who has faced death. He gives you at that moment of time, I believe, that what you need to put you in that place. She discovers that the king extends his scepter. 30 days hasn't passed, and it's against the law. He wants to know, what do you want, honey? What do you want? Father, we bless you.